I'm back from New York and I am working. I'm kind of stoked because I'm geeking out a little bit. Saw the man, Gary Vaynerchuk, and got to spend a couple of days at VaynerMedia, and I was super stoked. For those of you who know me well, you know I'm kind of an ad nerd. I dig ads and jingles, the stuff that helps people like remember shit when they're advertising. I'm totally into that. I nerd out on that. So had an idea while I was in New York and making some changes to my podcast because I was never really in love with it, and decided to create a new podcast. And so literally I'm gonna do on this podcast the stuff that I love to do and talk about, but I'm not gonna reveal yet what I'm doing. But some of the coolest shit that I'm gonna do with it, I'm gonna kind of nerd out on you a little bit. So for those of you who have been around me for any length of time, you know that I like ads and jingles and other things like that. So for the new podcast, I want to have that. You remember that like 1980s radio sound? So I'm going to Jam Productions in Dallas, Texas. I believe they're in Dallas. And I am going to have them create an entire jingle package based on the old Z100 jingle package. So for those of you who grew up like in New York, like I did back east, you might remember this.
Z100, hit after hit after hit after hit after hit after hit after hit. Rocking with the speed of light, the hot rockin' Z100.
So this
Z100.
I'm gonna have them produce the entire package of shit for the podcast, because I think that the podcast will be so much better when we have all those retro elements to it. Now, it's not gonna make the podcast great. It's just gonna be, it's okay, it's the shit that I like. So, you know, judge me for being a kind of a nerd in that space, but what I love about jingles are they're super memorable. Like, you know, people don't forget jingles, right? That's why McDonald's has the ba-da-ba-ba-ba. And so for me, being able to bring some of those old school elements into this new podcast that I'm going to launch.
Z100.
Anyway, so that's it. That's what I'm working on. I'll give you some details on the podcast in the next couple of weeks, because I want to get a few of them done, built, and I need these things because the podcast isn't going to be the podcast without this.
Z100.
Anyway, so I'm super stoked about it. Can't wait to get it. And I'm sure it's going to cost me an arm and a leg, but I got to get it done.